Mercy is the grid by which Jesus Christ, the restorer, chooses his projects. Mercy is the grid by which Jesus Christ, the restorer, chooses his projects. Let's look at Matthew 9:13. Jesus says, "But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice." Don't try to restore yourself. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. And so how do I want you to surrender your old life to the restorer? Your old life of sin. I want you to write this down. This is exactly what I want you to do. I want you to write down, I can't, you can. I can't, you can. Write it down. How do I surrender my old life? I can't, you can. We say, I can't restore my own life. Jesus Christ, the restorer, you can. I can't pay for the penalty of my sin. Jesus Christ, the restorer, you can. You conquered the old. I can't be Lord of my own life and be free from the power of sin, but through you can. Through Christ, you can. We need to admit that outside of Christ, we are unrestored sinners. Now, there's a couple other permutations that mean something quite different I can do with those words. And it's interesting, our surveys tell us that there probably are in this room anywhere from 100 to 250 people who think that you are outside of a loving, saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's because you're saying one of two things. You're either saying, I can restore my life. Christ, you can't. Look at me. I'm honest. I pay my taxes. I don't cheat on my wife. I can restore myself. You can't. Or you're saying this. Not only I can't, but Christ, you can't. You don't know how bad I am. You don't know what I've done. You don't know how bad it is. Nobody can restore me from this sin pattern. But God's mercy is available for the sin patterns in our souls to be restored only in Christ the restorer, and Jesus gave us the model on how to respond to his mercy. It's going to come on the screens. It's Luke 18:13. Dave Walters preached on this parable, but the tax collector stood at a distance, showing his broken heart. He would not even look up to heaven, but he beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I can't restore my own life. You can. I want to give you a picture. I have a little illustration here. It's going to come on the screen. It's a 1908 Auburn. That's the factory photo from the archives at the Auburn Court-Duesenberg Museum. Have been so gracious to let us have these photos. And there's what it looked like new. Might want to compare that to God's design, his original design he had for us. Okay? But here's what it looked like after a tornado had wiped out a barn it had set in for years. And the beams had fallen in on it, and it's pretty much all there. But it's unrestored. And one day, the family who had it said to the Auburn Court-Duesenberg Museum, here, take it. What are we going to do with it? And that picture I'm using right now for you to imagine the picture of your soul when you surrender the old life to Christ, the restorer. Now again, it's bad, it's rusty, it's corroded. You know, what are those sin patterns in your life? But if you haven't fully surrendered your life to the restorer, what about today? What about saying, I can't? You can. Not saying, I can't, you can't. You don't know how bad I am and there's no way you can do it. And not saying, I can, God. I can restore myself. You can't. I'm pretty good. But what if you would just come today with your soul, sin and all, and said, Jesus Christ the restorer, I can't restore my own life. You can. We see here that living hope, confident assurance of life abundant and eternal in Christ, fully surrenders my old life. And maybe that's you today, and you're ready to say to God, I can't. You can. But second, we'll see that living hope fully surrenders, write this down, my sins piece by piece. My sins piece by piece. I surrender them to the restorer as the trials in my life reveal those old sin patterns. Let's look at verses 6 through 7. In this, let me just point out what this is. In this, that's the coming salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. Peter believed, he says later, that these are the last times the Messiah has come. But when he's the second coming, when he comes in that last time, in this, because you're shielded by God's power through your full surrender. That was a Roman idea that Rome could do that. He's saying, you know, this is a different deal. And your inheritance that you're losing, see, they were losing, the early Christians were losing their physical inheritance on earth. They were losing their properties that they inherited from their parents because of their full surrender of their old life. So he says, in this you greatly rejoice. Though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. Well, these have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, the most precious commodity in the marketplace there, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Living hope fully surrenders my old life and my sins piece by piece. Why? So that my full surrender or my faith might be proved or approved genuine, real. Everybody will take God in good times, but what about the bad? And then Peter uses this imagery that's used throughout the Bible of a refiner or a restorer of metal. See, the way that works is refinement brings heat to the metal, let's say gold. And as that heat gets hotter and hotter, the impurities come to the top. So as our trials, the heat of our trials come around us, our old sin patterns of our soul will start rising to the top. When Peter wrote this, it might have been a great temptation to go back to the old life. Because see, they had many social pressures beyond what Kelly has talked about. They also had pressures of being unprofessional in business and being accused of that because they wouldn't go to the guild meetings that were at the pagan temples. That's kind of got a link to today. If I want to live out a relationship with God in the marketplace, some people don't like that. They were pressured and criticized and ostracized for not being family-oriented because all the family events were at pagan temples and they didn't go. Early Christians did that together. It can be familiar today. They were criticized as being unpatriotic because they wouldn't bow down to Caesar, who called himself divine. And so Peter says, these heat of these trials will bring the impurities in your soul to the top. And guess what? The biggest, baddest impurities come out towards the end when the fire's at its hottest. And the refiner molds and shapes and refines and brings impurities out of the metal until he sees his reflection in the metal. Jesus Christ, the restorer, is refining us amidst the trials and the temptations of life, bringing the impurities out, the old sin patterns in our souls, so that we will be proved genuine and authentic and have his heart, so that we will reflect him.